Hey, welcome back to Vice Grip Garage. Guys, got to get the front end put back together on the independent Chevelle here. It was really tough on the old billfold, but I got a bunch of new parts to kind of just throw at her. And then I can finally get this thing prepped to drop that big block in. Easy. Why did I think I needed to roll this thing over here? Anyway, picked up some coil springs, and these are Umis. There's a specific reason I got these. They were the cheapest ones on eBay, and they also came with front and rear because the rear is just shot. This is a 2-inch lowering front and rear. And you're probably thinking, wait a second there, feller. This is clearly a lot more than 2 inches. But what you got to keep in mind, and where a lot of people get a little confused, is freestanding height and loaded spring rate is two entirely different things. So even though this looks like a lot more, when these are loaded, this is just 2 inches lower. So we're going to get rid of this one. That was unnecessary. Anyway, moving on to shockulators, I picked up some Monroes. These were not the cheapest, believe it or not, but the mostest cheapier ones had like a 7-day lead time on shipping, so went ahead and paid another $4 for these. No idea if they're good. They are black and shiny though, so it's kind of going to match what's going on. That's neat. I've also got a lead 4-disc brakulator kit that's going to go on all 4 corners. But I think I'm only going to start with the front because I just want to get this buttoned down and back on some tires so I could stab this big block in, because then we got transmission and cross member and drive line and rear end and all that stuff to deal with, and we'll throw the rear lead brakes on in the future. Guys, going to start, I think, by finishing my expert rebuild on the front end, which basically just means spray painting stuff. And I'm using the low gloss black, which is the same as the frame, so everything kind of just matches in. Leaving the bushings on the control arms to save a little bit of money. But I did press in some lower ball joints, and I got some new upper ball joints I'm going to do as well. But I'm just going to these down so this starts drying. Got all the parts I want to paint in my super clean paint booth area here. Even down to some screws and bolts. Just jam them in some cardboard and they'll stand up. Got my lead spindles. Gonna get these all painted up, and then the steering arms that came off the brake drum assembly, them I'll snip right onto there for a guy. Hit these with the Harbor Freight sandblaster thing, and well, that didn't do anything. So then I came back with the cheek poker and wham, kind of finished her off. And you know, it is what it is. They're not perfect, but that's okay. Wanted to show you quick. A lot of people get nervous pressing in lower ball joints because it can kind of be a pain. And don't worry, you don't have to have a kit like this because Moses, they're expensive. Good ones will run you pretty near $300, but you can use a bench vise and you can grab a pipe like this. This is just a 2-inch guy. And basically you just stick this pipe right over top your ball joint. Stick her in a vise, squeeze the two together, and she'll press right in. I've done 197 of them like that, but be careful because I did snap this handle off. I had to come back and zzz just the other day. So anywho, I'm going to get in here and just got these all done. Gonna let that fan run for a while. Guys getting woozy. These will dry pretty quick, but they're gonna dry more of a matte, just like that frame out there. But these look about 142.9% better than what they did when we pulled them off. 97.4 weeks later. I think she's dry to touch now, so we'll grab all these parts, head out here and start throwing them on. And I think I'll start with the lower control arms and just go from there. Keep in mind now here, fellers, in this application, your lower and upper control arms play a critical role in your alignment up here. So I'm going to do the right thing and pay no attention to that. Shim nothing, just stab them in and torque them till my elbow pops. Get in there. Yep. Wow. If you can get one side in, then you can use that to lever over the other side and prevent you from getting the Tanya Harding on and just beating all this paint off. Oh, come back. In real life, a feller might consider, putting new bushings in and then just a dab of grease around it, keep it from squeaking down the road. Tuck that bushing back in there and pretend we didn't see it rip in half. Oh, there we go. Good as new. That's what you're going for. That felt about right. Somewhere around there. Wow. Take me to Ooga Dooga Town. Let's go with 4 Ooga Doogas. That was like 20, but that should work just fine. Lower control arms are on. I went ahead and took the tape off the old new ball joints there. Time to move on to the upper control arms, but I want to talk about this for a minute. Mine didn't have any, but if you're working on a GM, there's a great possibility you got some of these shims in there. And there could be multiple on one or even both of these bolts. And these are different thicknesses as well. And what that does is allows the guy to adjust his camber, or the lean out or lean in of the old tire. And then of course the toe in and toe out is done by the tie rods up here. So make sure you document or maybe take a digital picture with your pocket computer where those shims go. So when you put her back together, at least it's close. You're going to be really surprised, but there were none on this car. And in fact, these bolts were completely loose. So I'm going to do the right thing and just torque them down. Not really concerned about alignment, but maybe sometime in the future I'll show you how to do an alignment with a piece of gum, string, 2 rulers, and a hammer. Go on ahead and get out there! Way too much coffee. Perfect. After I torqued these down to 842 foot-pounds, came back with the paint and had to clean them up a little bit. On to upper ball joints. GM made this really easy, but there is a very particular way to put them in. And you do that by putting them in, 4 little bolts, grease zerk, and you're done. Got all the grease shooter inners installed. Almost forgot the lower ones, but I didn't. Time to put the boots on. These can kind of be a bear to slip over the bottom ball joint, so I wanted to show you something. And you can get some juice on these and stuff like that, but then it gets all slippery and messy. Just get them started, put them over the top. Grab your same ball joint presser inner and just run that over the top here. Use your knee as a bump cushion and just seat them on like that. Nice and easy. This is unintentionally looking halfway decent. I don't like it. Well, it's time for a guy to put the coil springs in. I already forgot what kind they are. Doesn't matter. But first, we're going to put the spindles on, and this is how I do it, and I'll show you why here. The guy likes to put his coil spring just loosely in here, paying attention to what side's upper or downer. Then I come in and just put this on here, just get a couple threads on so it's here. And that way when the coil spring gets aligned, I'm going to jack this up and we'll basically seat it right into the upper ball joint at the same time. Then I can run this nut on. That way when I let the pressure off the jack, everything's in here, and I'll be able to just to torque these two nuts down because of the pressure pulling on both of them. So this is what that'll look like, kind of staged up. And I got the spring in here, clocked right, I guess you can call her. I don't know. It's just, this is the way it's supposed to be. I'll show you on this side over here. Kind of difficult because this is so pitted out. But basically, there's a real low spot right here. So it comes high, and it starts getting lower, and then there's like a little groove right there. That's where a guy hooks this in. So this is where that's going to sit right there, and that'll prevent it from twisting around. Up in here, this cup area is just flat. You'll see on this here too, that's pretty well flat. So they tell a guy it's important you get this in here right, and I guess that makes sense. And then get your fingers in here where you could really pinch them. And just feel around and make sure you're centered. Yeah, and I can see that this is in that groove, so this one's ready to go as well. Oh, she's real sloppy. So now I'll bring the jack in here and just kind of, you know, make it happen. Now, I should be able just to brain this up. The problem I'm going to run into is there's no weight on the front end. So it's pretty likely we're actually going to lift the frame off the jack stand before this thing makes contact. And that's where I'm at right now. So I'll just push them together. And there we go. Now GM's setup here is nowhere near as unsafe as Ford's, where you have to compact the spring and all that. But if a guy does want some extra safety, because you are compressing the spring here in a way, you can wrap your purse around here or something like that. I wonder what Leanne Rhymes is doing today. Guy went ahead and dropped the bouncelators in here. I wanted to make sure that I got the right length shock, and looks like I did. Once I snug this up here, that'll draw that right in perfect. Just got to get myself some hardware in there. Performed a sway bar delete in here. All that does is help you control the car. And then started tinkering around with the motor mounts. Not going to tell you where I got that one. I don't like it. But I did pick up this one from Classic Headquarters, looks like. And that's what I like to see, is kind of that wider mount in there. Gives you more adjustment when a guy goes to put an engine in. I probably won't finish that side. I'm going to move on to the steering box. Lares Corporation sent one over. It's a quick steer ratio. We'll pop that in. The center link, the tie rods, kind of get it just eyeballed in here. Then we can move on to putting on the lead brakes. And probably even pop the master in real quick. Then we can finally get the tires back on this thing and drop her down. Ouch! New steering gearbox here. What I like about this unit is she's actually got a 10-to-1 steering ratio. So it's only 2.5 turns from lock to lock. Saves on the Honda Maximuses when you're doing this. Also kind of gives you that modern drive feeling, but it's nothing overwhelming. Which for me translates into really good for doing cookies, both directions. Come on now. Hit. So a guy was just gonna blow these front brakes on quick and go, ta-da! It's all done, but got to thinking about her, and this is starting to become a pretty popular mod. So I'm gonna show you how to do one side. I got one side done, but I'll run you through it. This side here turned out really good. These calipers, you can get them in different colors, but I was in a hurry, so I went with that. Comes with the brake line, all of the hardware. What I like is the hardware is actually SAE. It even comes with all the bearings, dust cap, cotter pin, everything. Again, you just got to reuse this steering arm here, and they send the new spindle. Really easy to install. So I'll take you over to the driver's side here and show you how to put that in. Guys, gonna go on ahead and state the obvious, just in case you've never done this or your 17 wobble pops in. Caliper goes on the back side facing the rear of the vehicle, so keep that in mind as you're putting all the bracketry on here. We're going to start with the caliper bracket. The ears of it face out, and then again this goes on the back, and the dust shield is going to go right over that. So what I did is just line them up, ran my 5/8 bolt in it so they're held together like that, and then just slide this over the spindle, and that top bolt will snip right in there. Two other provided bolts. One's just a snag longer than the other one. That one goes on the back side because it goes through the caliper bracket and also the steering arm. Run that through. Guys, gotta get a steering arm in here now. Bolt slide right through. Are these nylon? They are. Get them on there. Once the guy gets the hardware in there, you want to go ahead and torque down the top one to 100. Bring the bottom two to 75. Guy's got to get his bearings packed up. Whatever manner feller wants to do that. Just remember to use high-temp disc brake grease now, because he used that 1970s PTO grease. It's not going to last. Pop in your inner bearing. I like to put a little snot on the seal here on the inside lip. Drop that in place. Then if a guy just grabs his lower ball joint press 200, you want to flip that over, and now it's a bearing seal presser inner. Get that on here and just tap her in like that. Now we go throw it on. Outer bearing, throw that in there. Yeah. Where's my... There it is. It's important when a guy runs these on, you got to seat the bearings. Then you can go ahead and put your cotter key in. 18 to 24 foot-pounds. Go ahead and rotate this. Make sure she's spinning on you. And then just bring her down. Right about, click, click, right there. Ease her up a little. Make sure she spins nice. When I put my dust caps on, I like to fill them with grease. That way this bearing's got something to eat. If the guy's on his first side, make sure you grab the caliper with the bleeder on the top. And then they'll be right. I'm going to throw a dab of grease on my sliders here. That way the pin doesn't get to squeaking on a guy. Now a fella just takes a stop sign wrench here and just bang her home. I mean, that's pretty much it. It's really, really simple. Not going to show you the brake line because again, that's just plug and play. What are we doing now? I think we're on to the brake booster and master. I'll be dipped. Well, we got ourselves a front end here. It's looking pretty dang good. You can see from the stripperoonie grip rip marks on the old tie rod adjuster collar uppers there. I kind of eyeballed her in, and I'm going to wait until I get the final set of wheels on it. And then you want to get all the weight on it, and you got to roll her back and forth. Let the suspension settle, and then we'll do a real redneck alignment. But this is good enough for now. She was really toe out. But look at this. Remember how this was hitting the cross member? Look at that now. And this was pushed back into here. So we got all the geometry straightened up in here, and it might drive halfway decent-ish now. So anyway, back up to this. I'll go pull that out of the box and get this popped on really quick. This guy here has a little smaller diameter booster on it. And that's going to be great for the big box. Common problem is that old valve cover. She gets snagged up in here. It's a nice looking unit. Yeah. Wow, are none of these going to fit in here now? Here's some, but not all of the stuff that ended up taking off. A lot of weight reduction. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode. We got a lot done, actually. It's coming along pretty good. Still a lot more to come. Thanks for following along. Appreciate it very much. If you're not subscribed, please do that. See you next time.